Oh God, no! 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 Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter World. Today we're going to be talking about Arch Tempered Kulve Taroth. Now, forgive me if I don't sound particularly enthusiastic in this video, but there's two reasons for that. Number one, I actually have a really bad sore throat right now because I'm getting sick. And number two, Kulve Taroth is actually one of the weakest aspects in Monster Hunter World, in my personal opinion, due to the RNG nature of the rewards that she provides, basically making it almost impossible for you to plan on a specific weapon that drops from this monster, because chances are you might never really get it, because the loot pool is just so big and the randomness of the rewards that you can get is just exceedingly large, and therefore, you know, it's like you want to get a specific weapon, you most likely will not get it, so that's one of the things that I don't like about it. But anyways, I've talked at length about why I don't like Kulve Taroth. Let's actually get into a couple of things that you guys are probably going to be curious about. So the very first thing that a lot of people are going to be asking, Rurikhan, what do we got to do in order to trigger the new Enraged State to get the rainbow rewards? And basically, you got to do exactly the same thing that you've always done in Kulve Taroth encounters. Now, the rewards from the Kulve Taroth encounter are basically increased the more parts from Kulve Taroth you break. And the way that you trigger her Enraged State is you break every single thing that is breakable in Kulve Taroth. So that means left side of the tail, right side of the tail, right foreleg, left foreleg, chip the horns, break the tail once the coating is gone. You know, basically break everything. Once you break everything that you can break on Kulve Taroth, eventually, she triggers her Enraged State, and at that point, if you completely break off the horns, you're going to get the new rainbow rewards. Now, a very important thing is, if in the attempt that you break the horns, you also happen to have broken every single part, because the rate of Kulve Taroth works in multiple attempts. If you aren't able to break everything on your very first attempt, you know, you can go in again, and it takes into consideration the stuff that you've broken in the previous attempts. However, if you just ignore the stuff that you broke in previous attempts and always shoot for breaking everything, you're going to gain an additional 2 rainbow rewards. They're called a full siege 1 run, whatever additional rewards. So basically, you have the potential, if you get like maximum reward level by breaking everything that is possible to break and achieving level 6 pursuit level, and you do all of this in one run, so breaking every single part in one run while she is enraged, you have the potential to get 6 rainbow weapons. Now, the golden weapons themselves also have a chance of giving you the iridescent weapons, which are the same tier as the rainbow colored weapons, whatever. Basically, the golden stuff can also give you the new tier of weapons that is available in Kulve Taroth. So that's something to keep in mind. Just because you don't get maximum rewards, you might still get some of the weapons that you are trying to get off of her. But basically, that's the thing. It's the exact same thing that you've always been trying to do in Kulve Taroth. You want to break as many parts of Kulve Taroth as possible, and especially you want to make sure that you break as much as possible in the final attempt where you are going to break the horns, okay? Because again, you're going to get additional rewards and all of that good stuff. Having said that, you guys are probably wondering, Rurikhan, what's the deal with the new weapons? What's so special about them? And the thing is, the new weapons are going to have high values of ailments or elements. So they're either going to be like paralysis weapons, they're going to be blast weapons, they're going to be fire weapons, you know, ice weapons, stuff like that. And they're going to have a decent amount of the value of the element or ailment in them. All of the ones that I've picked up so far, the element is already awakened. Therefore, you do not need to have like level 3 free element ammo up. It's already going to be awakened. And to top it off, all of these weapons appear to have the set bonus from Rathalos or Zora Magdaros, whatever is more relevant. So therefore, for instance, if you happen to pick up a weapon that has paralysis, chances are it is going to have critical status, which means you're going to increase the amount of paralysis damage that you deal on your targets whenever you crit. If your weapon is a fire weapon, for instance, that you happen to get a drop off, then most likely it will have critical element, which basically means whenever you do critical damage, you're going to deal additional elemental damage on top of your regular damage. That's the gimmick of the new weapons. I'll be showing you guys one of the new weapons that I'm actually using in one of my sets. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk to you guys about the new Kulve Taroth set Gamma, which in my opinion is a particularly disappointing set. I really don't like this set at all. Like, I kind of feel that the original Kulve Taroth set's really good, pretty much game-changing in a lot of aspects. You add to that the Lunastra beta set, also extremely game-changing. But on top of everything, you look at the Rurikhan set, and that one is probably the most game-changing set of all, instantly becoming one of the most used armors if you care about meta in this game at all. And then you look at Kulve Taroth's Fury Gamma, and it's like on the helmet you got Power Prolonger and Stun Resistance, which is not particularly impressive. And then you got also not impressive sockets. You got a tier 3 and 2 tier 1s. Not really that great. Then you look at Kulve Taroth's Ire, and you have 2 levels of Handicraft and 1 level of Agitator. I mean, I guess that's alright if you're trying to go after Agitator, which I don't do a lot of sets that go after Agitator myself. But it is one of the few armor pieces that's got Agitator on it. It's also got 2 Handicraft, but it's like if you want a Handicraft, you can also get that out of Kushala the Aura with better sockets. The thing is, you're not going to have Agitator, which, again, I'm just not sure that I would care that much about it. And then you look at the sockets, you only have 1 tier 1, and you're just like, Then you go into the gloves, and you got another 2 levels of Handicraft, which is cool. You got Constitution, which is actually alright. But at the same time, just not that much in the way of sockets. So therefore, I'm just left, again, doesn't really feel all that great. Now, when it comes to the belt, I can actually see myself potentially using this belt on a couple of sets. It's got critical boost and weakness exploit and a tier 3 decoration slot, but still not particularly impressive. Like, I've seen better. And then finally, you look at the pants, and the pants is actually the part that I do care about because it's got 2 levels of Agitator, but more importantly, it's got Heat Guard, making it one of the few armor pieces that has Heat Guard in it, and that it's actually endgame viable. So therefore, these pants, I could see myself potentially making them work in certain sets where I kind of feel like I want to have Heat Guard in there, which still is very much a niche skill, so even there, it's not particularly impressive. Now, the set does look good. It looks pretty sweet. It's got the new color scheme from the Kulve Taroth, Arch Tempered Kulve Taroth. So that's pretty sweet, but ultimately, again, I'm not particularly impressed with this set. And I think another important thing to mention is that it is going to take you quite a while to actually farm the required materials in order to build this set, because, I don't know, last night I must have beaten the Enraged Kulve Taroth, I don't know, 5-6 times maybe. And out of all those attempts, apparently I got 12 materials that you need in order to craft this new set, because the new material is Kulve Taroth Emperor Nugget. And apparently I got 12 of those, and it takes 7 to craft each of the parts of Arch Tempered Kulve Taroth. So after all of the runs that I did last night, I can't even craft 2 parts. Now, I don't know if I was incredibly unlucky or what the deal is with that, but this is a set that is going to require to grind Arch Tempered Kulve Taroth for quite a bit, at least in my opinion. Either way, now I wanted to show you guys one of the weapons as well as a couple of different builds. So we're going to go into the training area. Okay, so when it comes to the builds that I told you guys about in the last video that I just said, Arch Tempered Kulve Taroth builds, pretty much all of those builds are viable for Arch Tempered Kulve Taroth, in my personal opinion. I would say that the weakest one is probably the hammer. I tried going at her with a hammer and it just didn't feel right. I just didn't feel like I was doing enough damage with the hammer as compared to, say, for instance, the Charge Blade or even the light bowgun, which in my opinion, the 2 light bowgun combo that I use on that particular fight is still potentially like the most meta and potentially the best at least in my opinion, because it just makes the fight a lot more simpler, a lot easier. You can almost AFK it, and it is important to have a simpler time with that fight if you plan on farming her for extended periods of time. Now, having said that, I myself have gotten pretty much burned out on using the light bowgun on Kulve Taroth because it's something that I've done so often already. So I wanted to come up with something different, and what ended up happening is the set that you guys are looking at right now, which is using an Insect Glaive. Now, I realize that a lot of people are going to criticize, oh, Insect Glaive is not that great. It's like, it gets the job done, guys. It really does get the job done, and it deals a lot of damage. Now, in this set, you're going to be seeing a weapon that is one of the new weapons, so that you can also take a look at what the new weapons actually look like. So this right here is the Jar Glaive Spark. Jar Glaive Spark. And it's got a decent amount of damage. It's not particularly impressive, 626. The base affinity of it, I'm actually not sure. Let me go back into the equipment screen here. So the base affinity of it is 15%. Actually, the damage is 589, but it's got a lot of thunder element, which is the important part, because, you know, Kulve Taroth is actually probably the only monster where using heavy elemental damage is actually worth it. Most of the other monsters in the game, you know, you can either go either way depending on the weapons that you're using, but it doesn't always really pay off to go heavy into elemental damage, despite the fact that I personally enjoy doing it. You know, Elementalist is usually a much better playstyle, especially if you're a speedrunner or something like that. But in Kulve Taroth, using elemental damage is encouraged, and it's actually very much viable, so this particular Insect Glaive is really, really good, because as you can see, it's got all of those things, and then it tops it off by having the critical element skill in the weapon itself. Therefore, you don't need to have two pieces of the Rathalos set, which, let's face it, leave a lot to be desired when you're comparing it to any other piece of endgame gear. So, this is the build that I made, and you can do this build with different weapons, so don't worry about it. I know that a lot of you guys are not going to have this particular weapon. Maybe you won't have the decorations as well. There are a couple of things that you can change around to work with the decorations, but still, this is a pretty much bare bones build. It's pretty much one of the meta builds that you can get with the Drachen set. So it's pretty much basic. Look, Drachen Armament Alpha, you got the Destroyer Jewel in there, and the Attack Jewel. You look at the chest piece, you got a Destroyer Jewel in there. You look at the Drachen Vambraces, you got the two Tenderizer Jewels, and the Coil, you got another Destroyer Jewel, and the Greaves, you got another Tenderizer Jewel. Now, as we know, the Destroyer is mostly important for the stage where Kulve Taroth still has her Golden Cloak, because that is the part where you want to be breaking as much things as possible. Also, we're wrapping this up with a Shock Charm. Now, if you do not have the Jar Glaive Spark, don't worry about it. You can use the Tobi Kadachi Glaive, which also works fine, and then you don't really have to swap anything. You just use the Tobi Kadachi Glaive, and you can go with this exact same set, go in there, and just take advantage of the thunder damage that your glaive is doing. You're not going to deal as much damage as the set that I have here, but at the same time, you'll be dealing plenty, okay? Your focus is going to be stay in the air and just spam your aerial attacks as much as you possibly can, and try to focus on the parts that still need breaking, whether that is the tail, whether that is the chest pieces, whether that is the front forelegs and all of that stuff. Just try to break the stuff that needs to be broken and just hang around in that general vicinity. Now, when it comes to a Kinsect, the Kinsect that I'm actually using in this build is the Kankadaman 3. Now, I don't have to take this one. Overall, the Kinsect Dust doesn't really see a lot of usage unless the monster is standing still, and she moves around a lot, because usually you'll have 4 people in the hunt, and therefore she's going to be moving all over the place. So your dusts are not going to be particularly effective. You can still take the Pseudocath if you really want to. It is still effective, but the thing is, with this, you can at least get a little bit of paralysis off, and every now and then you get a paralysis on her, which does bring advantages to your group. Everybody gets to deal a lot of damage whenever she's paralyzed, so, you know, it provides people with an opening. That's why I go with the Kankadaman, but like I said, if you'd rather go with the Pseudocath, go with the Pseudocath. If you want to take the Carnage Beetle 3 for poison, you can also do that and keep her poisoned. But remember, you really don't want to be dealing damage on her You want to be dealing damage on her parts, which is the reason why I don't go for poison. But hey, that's completely up to you, however you want to do it. Now, once you completely shed her cloak, you want to swap your element because thunder is going to basically become useless. And at that point, you got two options depending on the glaives that you have at your disposal. So if you don't have any of the glaives that drop from Kulve Taroth, you're going to want to replace the spark with another insect glaive that it is called something freeze. I'll put a screenshot of it somewhere in the video so that you guys can check it out. You just go to the workshop, figure out what you got to do to craft that glaive, and then you replace the shock charm with an ice charm, a frost charm, so that instead of buffing your thunder damage, it will buff your frost damage, therefore increasing the damage that she will be receiving in that final stage. Now, in the final stage, you don't necessarily need Destroyer Jewels, so you might want to, instead of using the Frost Charm, like I said, you might want to, instead of doing that, just replace the Destroyer Jewels with Frost Jewels. Those you can meld for, by the way. You can meld for Frost Jewels and get them 100% guaranteed, no RNG. So there's no excuse for not having Frost Jewels. And then you can use, say, the Fitness Charm so that you can stay in the air longer, or you can just swap around whatever you want. Because the build that I actually use on the final stage is very different, and I will show you that build. Now, this is just in case you don't have any glaives from Kulve Taroth. You can just use one glaive that you can craft, which is the Frost Glaive, and it will work fine, okay? But if you do have it, then you might want to consider this other build. Let me just show you guys here. Now, this is going to use the Taroth Glaive Ice because it's got a ton of ice damage. The problem is you need to awaken the ice damage. So that's why we're going to be using a Release Jewel. Again, I realize not a lot of people are going to have this. I'm using an Awakening Charm to fully get that frost damage up there. And then we're still using 3 Frost Jewels to really increase the frost damage. As you can see, we actually end up with 490 ice damage, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. And using the glaive, you can actually target the different parts of the monster that you want to kill. Like, oh, we need to break the tail. Focus on the tail. Go after the tail. Smack it from the air. And then it's like, oh, we still need to chip the horns. Go after the horns. Chip those horns. You know, that's what you gotta do. And it's, again, fairly bare bones. Use the Drachen set. You got Frost Jewel, Attack Jewel, Frost Jewel, Tenderizers, Frost Jewel, and another Tenderizer. And the only big budget item in here is the Release Jewel. I realize that a lot of people have been commenting that you don't have Tenderizer Jewels, and it's like, sorry, man. Like, I guess you gotta farm some more decos. I get to a certain point, like, I don't want to be... I guess that in the last video I was trying to be sarcastic and a lot of people thought that I was being a little bit mean, and it's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but at a certain point, you know, we are doing endgame fights. You're going to need to have some of the endgame decorations, and I understand that they're random, but you gotta grind them. That's the only way to get them. I'm not a huge fan of the randomness of decos either, but I can kind of live with the decos because you can just kind of get them over time. But the RNG of the weapons from Kulve Taroth is just, Jesus Christ. But yeah, guys, that's my suggestion. It's like, still, the light bowgun is definitely in my opinion, the most meta way to go about it because it's just easy, doesn't require a lot of effort, deals a ton of damage, breaks a lot of parts, and you still have utility things like you can get her to sleep, you can do all kinds of stuff with the light bowgun. But if you're tired of the light bowgun, or maybe you just don't have enough resources to craft all of that elemental ammo, because you're wasting upwards of 120 elemental ammo per fight if you go that route. If you just don't have those kinds of resources, then try going for the Insect Glaive road, which still works, and you can also mount her from time to time, again providing windows of opportunity for your group to really dish out a bunch of deeps. This is what I've been doing, and this is probably going to be my chosen way of farming her with the Insect Glaive now. And eventually, whenever they do the next iteration of Kulve Taroth, I'll probably need to find something else that I can deal with. Although, if I'm going to be completely honest, there's also another weapon, one of the new weapons that I've gotten that I'm considering doing a build around, which is this one, the Jar Strong Arm Spark. It's got Power Element File. Power Element File is actually really good at breaking through that golden cloak of hers. And it's also got Critical Element. and it's got decent damage and positive affinity, so I think I can kind of work with this. But again, I'm not sure if it's worth my time to really invest in doing a Charge Blade build, because the other one just works for both phases. The other Charge Blade build that I did with the Part Breaker and stuff, it just works for both phases, whereas one with this weapon would only work for phase 1, and I'd have to swap it around for phase 2, and I don't know if I feel like dealing with that. Another cool weapon that I got was the Kjar Strong Arm Numb, though. This actually seems like it's really powerful because it's got critical status, paralysis. The damage is not as great, but it does have positive affinity, so I guess that this could paralyze a lot. It'd be good for, you know, a multiplayer build where you have people fighting monsters that are weak to paralysis. So this might be something that I work on a build for in the future as well. But either way, I'll try to see if I can get back on the grind tonight, but I am sick, and I also need to take care of my kid. I'm not sure if my wife's going to be able to take care of my kid tonight or not, so the stream might be late. But either way, thank you all very much for watching. Do remember, if you enjoy my videos, you should really consider showing up at the live streams, twitch.tv/Rurikhan. Follow me on there so that you can hang out with the Ironbreakers, and that is where I will be hosting all of my Kulve Taroth lobbies, so that if you guys need to farm Kulve Taroth, definitely want to follow me on there. I am probably going to be running as many lobbies as possible, but we also need to remember, it is Christmas. It is Christmas. Gotta spend some time with families, man. So, yeah, remember, spend some time with your loved ones. Happy holidays, everyone. See you guys in the next one. If you guys enjoyed my videos, subscribe, notification, likes, all that good stuff. Comments and feedback in the comment section below. And damn, my phone just went off the hook. See you guys in the next one. Peace.